In this video, we're going to focus on adding fractions. So fractions can be simplified using addition only if they are like fractions. That is, they must have the same denominator. So if we have the same denominator in this case, if two or more fractions have the same denominator, to add them you simply add the numerators and keep the denominator. So in this case here, and we work down the page, 5 is our denominator, and we simply add 1 plus 3 equals 4. Now if we had a larger number here which added up greater than 5, and we had an improper fraction, we would then have to convert it to a mixed fraction. So let's say, for argument's sake, we had a 4 over 5 plus 3 over 5. We have a denominator of 5. If we add 4 and 3, we get 7, and this is an improper fraction. So underneath, we would work that fraction and go, how many times does 5 go into 7? It goes once with 2 remainder. So the mixed fraction would be 1 and 2/5. For different denominators, if the denominators are different, such as 5 and 2, we must use our knowledge of equivalent fractions to convert them to fractions with the same lowest common denominator. Okay? So in order to do that, if I multiply 5 times 2, I can get the number 10, and that is going to be our new denominator. The next step in order to get the numerators is to cross multiply. So start from the left, go down to the right, and you multiply 1 times 2, which is 2, and you do the same for the other side. You go to the right hand side, down to the left, and we multiply 1 times 5, and that equals 5. So now I've got two fractions with the same denominator, which makes it much easier for me to add. 2 plus 5 equals 7. So now I have the answer of 7/10. Now, if you're going to do this on your calculator, which is a much quicker and easier way, we need to use the ABC fraction button. This is the magic button you're going to find on your calculator that's going to help you. And that ABC fraction button works as this fraction line. So if we look at this in the calculator, you would punch in this. 1 ABC fraction button 5 plus, and I'll go down here now, running out of room, 1 ABC fraction button 2 equals, and you will get this answer. Okay, so I'll repeat this again. 1 ABC fraction button 5 plus 1 ABC fraction button 2 equals, and you will get the answer of 7/10. For mixed fractions, when adding mixed fractions of the same denominator, and in this case it's the number 3, they must be converted to improper fractions before we can begin to add. So I'm just going to set this up here as you do, and you work down the page for fractions, like most things. And we can see that the denominator is 3, and that's fine, it just stays the same. Now this fraction is proper, there's nothing wrong with it, we can simply drop that down. But this is a mixed fraction, and I must change it to improper fraction where the number on the top is bigger and the number on the bottom is smaller. So to change this mixed fraction, I simply times the whole number of 3 with the denominator of 3, and I get 9, and I add the top number, the numerator, and that gives me 11. So now I have two fractions I can work with and I can add up. So the denominator is 3 still, and I add 11 plus 2 to give me 13. Now that I have this answer of 13 over 3, I now must convert that back to a mixed fraction, because you never leave it as an improper fraction. So I think, how many times does 3 go into 13? And it goes 4 times. My denominator will stay as a 3 for my little part here, this part of the fraction, next to the whole number. So 3 times 4 is 12, with 1 remainder to get it to 13. So our answer is 4 1/3. To do this in the calculator, which is fairly quick and easy, we need to use that magic ABC fraction button. Okay, so locate that on your calculator. So this is what we need to do when we punch this in to achieve the correct answer. So we punch in 3, ABC fraction button, 2, ABC fraction button, 3, plus 2, ABC fraction button, and 3, and hit the equals button. Okay? Now, you may be thinking, well, why are we putting a ABC fraction button in this spot here? And the reason being is if you go 3 to ABC fraction button 3, it's like saying 32 over 3. So you have to put an ABC fraction button in between the whole number and the numerator. So we go 3, ABC fraction button, 2, ABC fraction button 3, plus 2, ABC fraction button 3, and equals, and you will end up with an answer that looks like this on your calculator. 4R, 1R, 3. Okay? And this R really means like a fraction line. But because you have 3 numbers, it's really meaning you've got 4 whole numbers and 1/3. Okay? So this little R will separate numbers and also fraction lines. So here is our second example for adding fractions. So we have the same denominator still, and we know that we have to convert these mixed fractions to improper fractions. So we know that our denominator is going to be 5 because it already is. So let's convert these now. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 4 is 34. Next line. We know our denominator is 5, and all we simply do is add these two numbers. And 22 plus 34 is 56. Now we know we can't leave this as an improper fraction, and we must convert it to a mixed fraction. So we think about how many times 5 will go into 56. It goes 11 times because 5 times 11 is 55, and we have one remainder over 5. So our answer is 11 1/5. Now to punch this in calculator, you would do this. 4 ABC fraction button, 2 ABC fraction button, 5 plus 6 ABC fraction button, 4 ABC fraction button, 5, and equals. And it will give us this answer here. But this answer is going to look like this. 11R, 1R, 5. Okay? But that really means 11 1/5. This is the whole number, and this is the fraction. Okay? When adding mixed fractions with different denominators, we must first multiply the denominators to then be able to add them. Okay, we're going to work these two mixed fractions, 2 5/6 plus 3 3/4. So work down the page. The first step is to change those mixed fractions to improper fractions before we can do anything. So 2 times 6 is 12, 12 plus 5 is 17, and the denominator stays the same at 6. 3 times 4 is 12, 12 plus 3 is 15, and again the denominator stays the same. So now we're going to try and achieve the same denominator, and doing that we must multiply 6 times 4, and we get 24. Okay, so now we must cross multiply the numerators starting from the left and going right, and 17 times 4 gives us 68. I do the same thing to the other side, and I go 15 times 6 is 90. So now I have two fractions with the same denominators that I can actually add now. So I drop the denominator down of 24, and I add 68 and 90, and that gives me 158. Now we've not finished because this is actually improper fraction form, and you don't leave it like that as an answer. It must be a mixed fraction answer. So you ask yourself, how many times does 24 go into 158? And it goes in 6. 6 times 24 is 144. The numerator will be a new one for you here because your remainder goes here. So the remainder left over is 14. We now have a new mixed fraction, a whole number of 6, a numerator of 14, and a denominator of 24. But we haven't finished there because we have to simplify this fraction. Okay? And to simplify this fraction, we've got to find the highest common factor that goes into the top and the bottom, which is 2. So highest common factor is 2. 2 goes into 14 7 times, and 2 goes into 24 12 times. So this here is our new answer that we have gotten through all of these steps. Now to use a calculator, which is much more quicker and easier, we're going to look at these steps here. So remember, our A, B, C fraction button is very important when we're doing this. We're going to use it a few times. So this is how I would do it. 2, A, B, C fraction button. 5, A, B, C fraction button. 6 plus 3, ABC fraction button. 3, ABC fraction button. 4, and equals. And it will give you the correct answer. Okay? So this is really, really important to know. And it will give you the answer that we just achieved before.